All right, we got another correctional officer video for my corrections family. We talking about different situations that you'll encounter working in corrections and the best way to respond to them. You know, me as a 14-year veteran correctional officer, I've been in 3 different facilities. You know, I've faced all kind of unique, special situations and challenges all throughout my career. It won't be the first, it won't be the last. So if you're coming into correction, these are some challenges that you will face in your career at some point, you know, and these are some of the best ways to address them. So getting right into the video, man, what to do when an inmate threatens you. You never want to take a threat lightly, man. I don't care if you think the inmate is mental health, if they're in the lockdown unit behind the door making these threats, man, you never take that kind of stuff lightly because you don't know what that inmate is capable of. You don't know what kind of access to the outside world that inmate has. He may have connections on the street. I've seen situations, man, where officers have lost their lives because they had a threat from an inmate on the inside. That inmate, you know, they had connections on the outside on the free world. The officer in this particular situation, man, he was riding home after a shift at work and he was ambushed on the highway by associates of the inmate at the prison that he worked at. You know, I guess they had some kind of beef or altercation and the inmate made threats. And I don't know all the details of it, man, but I remember that story happening. It was at a federal prison, another federal prison out in Puerto Rico. You know, he unfortunately had lost his life. So like I said, you never take that kind of stuff lightly. Always document that, report it, write a disciplinary shot. Let someone else know, you know, your supervisor, the sergeant or the lieutenant, man. And always be wary, be mindful of that inmate. You know, that inmate could be in the SHU, in the lockdown unit, but they could get out. You know, they don't stay in the SHU forever. A lot of times these inmates, when they get in trouble, they go behind the wall, behind the door, and then they get out. And now they back in general population. So now they got direct access to you. You feel me? Like I said, some of these inmates have connections on the street as well. They gang members, gang leaders. They may be a part of an organization, you know, where they got ties. People still out on the street that could do stuff for them, man. You could be touched, man. So never take that kind of stuff lightly, man. This is the next thing. When a mental health inmate has a nervous breakdown, or they stop taking their medication, they start having their episodes. If you work in a prison that houses mental health inmates, you know, this is the thing with those mental health inmates. A lot of these inmates, man, there's a lot of times they're not in their right mind state. Sometimes they may stop taking their meds that the doctor prescribed for them. You know, you got people in there that's schizophrenic, they hallucinate and they hear voices in their head, and they have episodes where they flip out, man. They may just start out the random, just start shouting to themselves, start arguing with themselves, start becoming destructive, disrupting the whole unit. You know, the best thing to do in that situation, you know, call for backup when something like that occurs. You know, try to get in touch with that inmate's doctor, psychologist, you know, so they can come down to the unit and talk to them, you know, and never try to take on these inmates by yourself, man. You know, you don't know what these inmates are going to do. A lot of times they're unpredictable. You know, I've seen situations, man, where mental health inmates have assaulted staff members, assaulted other inmates, you know, all because they're not in their right mind state. And sometimes when you're not in your right mind state, man, you liable to do anything. I've seen these inmates banging their head up against the wall, then busted their head open, man, but they keep banging their head up against the wall. They didn't try throwing chairs around the unit, man, walking around in their cell with no clothing on, you know, urinating on the floor, taking feces out the toilet, eating it, smearing it on the wall. It's unpredictable. You never know what they're going to do, what they're capable of, man. So it's always best to have backup when they have their episodes, man, and try to be reasonable with them. Try to talk them down. Sometimes you can't, a lot of times you can't talk to these inmates because, like I said, they're not in the right mind state. This is the next thing. When you find a possible security breach in the prison, you know, you doing your rounds, you walking around the prison and you see a gate unsecured, you see a door unlocked or something like that. You misplace your keys or a piece of equipment, somebody loses some keys. That's a security breach right there. And you need to let your supervisor know immediately. You don't just try to lock the door back and keep going. You don't just, you know, tell the next person, I don't know where the keys are, man, but we can look for them real quick. Nah, No, you don't do none of that, man, because that is an opportunity for an inmate to possibly escape from the confines of the institution. If you got a door unsecured, what if an inmate found it and they slipped on out and now they at the fence and they about to climb the fence? They didn't escape from the prison. You don't know that. You can't just assume that everybody's in the prison accounted for and just lock it back and go about your day. No, when something like that happens, we recall all the inmates to their housing unit. We secure them and we do an emergency count, and then we determine if everything is running normal, if everything is secure in the institution. Until that, you can't just say that, man. That's a liability. If you try to overlook that and you come across something that's unsecured or a possible security breach and you try to sweep it under the rug and an inmate was to escape or something like that, and it comes out that you knew about it, you're liable for that. You're liable to lose your job, get in trouble, man. You could possibly be charged with aiding that inmate in an escape. You feel me? So when stuff like that happens, always notify somebody immediately. Notify the lieutenant, the sergeant immediately so they could lock it down. We could count everybody and make sure everyone is there. This is the next thing. A large scale fight or a riot breaks out on the rec yard, on your unit. You work in the housing unit, right? And all of a sudden 10 inmates just start fighting. It's 5-on-5. I don't know. You got the blacks versus the whites. You got the Mexicans versus the other Mexicans from another part of Mexico, man. You got multiple inmates fighting. They pull out a bunch of shanks, start stabbing each other, man. It just went to hell, man. The best thing to do is to stay back and not get involved in it. Get on your walkie-talkie, call for assistance. I got a large-scale fight on my unit, multiple inmates fighting, and they have weapons involved, so the cavalry could come running, and you stay back and you stay out the way. Don't try to get in the middle of none of that. If you got to use your pepper spray, OC, if they coming at you, man, but your best bet in order to protect yourself and not get injured, possibly stabbed or jumped on, is to just stay back and let them fight, man. Look, that's not your business. That's not your beef or that's not your fight. You trying to restore order, make sure that you stay safe, and you just wait until you get back up there. You get officer presence on the unit, the rec yard, wherever you at. You could be in the chow hall. Anything could pop up, man. You just get a whole bunch of inmates fighting, man. That's the main thing you want to remember. Never put yourself in the middle of that, man. You don't know what their intentions are. They could be trying to lure you in as you being the only officer on the unit, and then they all jump on you. You just never know. So if a fight break out on my unit, it's a whole bunch of inmates fighting, I'm staying back. I'm gonna get on my walkie-talkie, call for assistance, hit my body alarm. I'm gonna tell them, I'm gonna shout, tell them to stop fighting, but they gonna keep fighting. Hey, I'm not gonna get in the middle of that and try to break up a bunch of inmates fighting by myself. That's not smart, man. That's not being a good, smart correctional officer. You wait for your backup to ride. This is the next thing, man. You get hurt or injured on the job. Let's say you breaking up a fight and you sprain an ankle. You run into an emergency and you slip and fall and then bust your back up, man. Now you limping, this and that. And the best thing to do in those situations is you gotta always let your supervisor know, and you need to let whoever your department is that's in charge of like workers' comp, or if you get hurt on the job, you always document that the same day. Don't wait a week later. Don't wait to the next day when you back on shift. Document that immediately. So when things go down, let's say we have like a calculated use of force, right? And we got to go in on a cell extraction and we got to get an inmate out of his cell that's combative. He's refusing orders. We go in there, we rush the door, we pin him to the ground, right? We put them in handcuffs, leg restraints. We march them to the nursing station. The nurse evaluates him. He might get put in another cell or in a restraint chair. After all of that's said and done, we have to go on camera, right? And the lieutenant asks everybody, did they sustain any injury? That's the time right there when you need to speak up. And you need to let someone know. You need to document those injuries, man. Go fill out the form, go through the proper channel, to let someone know. That way, if something was to come up where that injury is more serious than what you thought, you're covered. You can get on workers' comp. You can go to the doctor and get evaluated. And then a lot of times, if it's immediate, immediate injury, you hurt right there on the job and it's serious enough, you got nurses, doctors on the unit, that can evaluate you and tell you, oh yeah, you should go to the doctor immediately. You need to go to the hospital right now. They can send you out. There's been situations I've seen in my career where people got hurt on the job. One of my coworkers tore his ACL, run into an emergency. One of my coworkers had a medical emergency and was unconscious. Man, we ended up having to take him out on the stretcher, call an ambulance, and send him to the hospital. So, like I said, man, when you get hurt on the job, always document that and let your supervisor know, man. This is the next thing. You have cellmates not getting along with each other. You got two inmates. They sharing the cell together. They not getting along for one reason or another. Maybe one of the other inmates he's not as good on his hygiene as the other inmate. They may be from different races. You got two inmates together. One of them might have some charges that the other inmate doesn't like. He may have snitched on somebody. He may be a child predator. And they come to you, the officer, and say, man, we not getting along, man. Can you move us? Always take that serious, man, because you don't want a situation where, you dismiss it. Man, hey, y'all better make it work or y'all better get along. And then later on that night, one of the cellmates end up beating the other cellmate to death, man. And you could have avoided that by trying to find a solution, like possibly moving them to another cell. When that happens, a lot of times your best bet is, if you don't have direct, authority of moving the inmates out of the cell into another cell, because a lot of times, the counselor might be in charge of the cell moves or the case manager, but sometimes they might not be there. It might be the weekend or it might be night shift. The counselor, the unit team is only there during the week, during the daytime. So when that happens, you got to make a direct call. You may have to call the lieutenant sergeant down. I got to make this move, man. I got two inmates not getting along. I'm going to move this inmate to another cell. We got another cell over there. You got to, may have to move some things around. You may have to see, can you go in the cell with that inmate, this and that. But you got to be mindful too. Now, a lot of inmates, sometimes they'll play games. They'll try to intentionally say that they're not getting along so this inmate can go and move in this cell with another inmate. So you got to be mindful of that as well. This is the next thing. You got a supervisor that's giving you a hard time, that's kind of harassing you. That's not acceptable in any form of corrections, And this is the best thing I've learned. When you got supervisors that give you a hard time, it's like they're trying to single you out and you feel some type of way about it. The best way to fight fire in a lot of situations is not by fighting it with your own fire. Sometimes the pen is mightier than the sword. If this supervisor keep bugging you, they keep harassing you. I'm not talking about, they mandated you or something like that, man, and you feel singled out just because you got to work an extra shift. Nah, I'm talking about they constantly on you, they harass you, they saying inappropriate things. That's when you need to let someone else know. You need to go above their head and you need to put that pen to the paper and file an incident report on it, man. Everybody has someone that they answer to. The lieutenant may answer to the captain. You may have to let the captain know. You feel me? You may have to go to your union rep and let them know what's going on. But always let someone know. Try to be reasonable with them. Don't try to fight fire with fire. Don't get into a big altercation with them. This and that, man. You never know what supervisor may have it out for you, man. Maybe you as a female officer, they may be trying to be romantically involved with you and you don't want anything to do with it. So once you shut them down, now all of a sudden they start harassing you. They start saying little things out their mouth to you, man. Nah, you got to shut that down. This is the next thing. You got an inmate that you find that's unconscious or they possibly intoxicated. You doing your rounds on the unit. You come up on the cell. You got an inmate. They just slumped out like this, and you trying to call them. You like, hey, what's up? And they not responding, man. Best thing to do, get on your walkie-talkie. I got an inmate that appears unconscious or intoxicated, and kind of wait for backup to get there. You could try to say, hey, tap them, this and that, but you got to be careful now. You don't want to scare the inmate and he wake up out of that, man. Maybe he was intoxicated and he wake up and he starts becoming combative. If it's in a medical emergency, you got one that's having a medical emergency, you want, like I say, call for backup, put on some gloves. They may not be able to respond to you when you tapping them, you shouting their name. They may need CPR. So I don't know, start CPR. That's what I would do. I find the inmate unconscious, in the cell. I roll them over, see what the deal is, check their pulse, see if they're breathing. If they're not breathing, start CPR. Be conscious of where the other inmates are. Be conscious of where you are at in the unit. If you in the cell and it's just you and the inmates, try to make sure you watching the door. Make sure no other inmates come in there, trying to do something ill will towards you. Call for your backup. Let them know what cell you at, what part of the unit you in, man, and do what you got to do. This is the next thing, man. You find hard contraband while you doing your searches. You searching a cell on the unit, and you come across some hooch, or you come across some drugs, you come across a shank, stuff like that. And the best thing to do in that situation, man, is to mainly make sure you know where that inmate is at, or those inmates that stay in that cell. You don't want to make a big scene. You don't want them to become assaultive or combative once you find the hard contraband in their cell. Get on your walkie-talkie, ask someone else to step over. Your officer working next door, the yard or the compound officers, tell them to step to the unit. You tell them, can you step down to my unit and secure that stuff? And if the inmate become combative, you got to do what you got to do. Whip out your pepper spray, tell them to step back. And make sure when you searching these cells, man, always have them step out of the cell. You feel me? You don't ever want to search the cell with the inmate right there and there, because once you do find it, man, they may try to take it back, become assaulted. You find some contraband on the inmate while you doing the pat search, and they take off running on you, they not where can they go? They're not going anywhere. Let them run. Let them do what they do, man. Call for you got a medical, you got an emergency on the unit, man. You need assistance on your unit, and let them run. All you gotta do is keep a visual on them. Where can they run to? Where they gonna try to run to another unit? We could lock the whole institution down, do an emergency count. They're gonna come up. It's not like they just run and now they done jumped over the fence and they didn't escape. People, I've seen videos where officers chasing after an inmate all around the unit. They find some contraband, he take off. I'm like, he's not going anywhere. Just lock the door, call for assistance. People will be there in a matter of minutes, then y'all can address the situation. So, like I said, when you find hard contraband on the inmate, drugs, K2, shank, stuff like that, secure it somewhere. Don't make a big scene out of it, man. Write your disciplinary report up. If he becomes hostile, do what you got to do to defend yourself. Call for backup. This is the next thing, the last thing. You suspect a coworker of being dirty or having an inappropriate relationship with the inmate. What to do in that situation, man? Don't just call them out on it. You can't just assume, or you can't just make accusations like that, But if you got hard evidence, you see a coworker going into a back room with a certain inmate every time, at the same time, every day, and you like, man, something just don't seem right about that. Or you see a coworker coming through the sally port, it's like they vest is way bigger than what it should be. Maybe they stuffing contraband in there. You should let someone know, man. Your best bet, is to let the investigation department know. Let SIS know, maybe let a supervisor know. But like I said, don't just assume, don't spread no rumors, accusations, nothing like that, because those are serious accusations, man. And what if you spread those type of accusations and it comes to light and that officer possibly faces losing their job and they weren't doing anything wrong? You see where I'm going with that? So like I said, man, let someone know, document it, maybe shoot an email to SIS, your investigation department that investigates officers for misconduct, and keep a watchful eye on it. Sometimes you may see an officer that's doing something that just doesn't look right, man. Some things, they don't look right. For example, a female officer goes into a back part of the prison or back area on the unit with a certain inmate away from the other inmates all the time. It doesn't look right. Let somebody know, and that's the best way to go about that. Y'all like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel at the Ghetto Bodybuilder. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok at the Ghetto Bodybuilder. I got the merch for sale. Shop with me on my website. Y'all got any input, thoughts, comments on this video? Make sure you drop a comment. I'll be sure to get back with you as soon as I can. Y'all know how we coming. Let's get motivated.